Serious, what was your biggest we need to leave now moment? Had a knock on my door, opened it to find some salesman trying to get people to sign up for at high speed internet. Half humored them, since I wasn't thrilled about my internet. But during the conversation one let it slip that they knew where I worked. Tried to play it off as, well, we provide service to such and such Air Force base, so we probably got your information from there. But that base has some 30k people and highly unlikely there is some comprehensive list. He started asking questions about my employment, which was pretty sensitive at the time, and the conversation was getting uncomfortable. They hadn't provided IDs at this point, so I asked, and they provided some faded, hardly legible copies, and then asked to come inside. Pretty promptly shut down the conversation and told them to leave, talk to neighbors later, and no one else had them visit. Not sure what they were after. My old apartment had an outdoor swimming pool for residents. We were swimming in it one day with my 1-year-old son, and another family was also there swimming. They had 3 kids swimming, while the mom and her sister were off to the side chatting on the patio. Their kids were probably 3, 5 and 7. I was swimming with my son when I saw my husband's eyes bug out of his head and said, "Let's go now," while I'm gathering our stuff. He whispers that he just saw the 3-year-old poop diarrhea out of their swimsuit into the water. As we are packing up, we then notice the mom notice the kid has shit in her bathing suit. She has the kid take off her bottom bathing suit, put on some underwear and let her and the rest of the kids keep swimming in the pool. I was so horrified, but I also am not good with confrontations. We went back to our app and called the app manager, who then had to go down to the pool and close up the pool for cleaning, which takes 24 hours. If it's liquid poop, we lost a little faith in humanity that day. Back when I was maybe 8, me and a few of my friends were out playing in a field when some pretty dark clouds rolled in. Being the dumb kids we were, we continued to play, even when it started to downpour. There was probably 5 of us in this group, and one of them was a 7-year-old who always wanted to hang out with the older kids. She started to cry. It wasn't strange for her to cry from time to time, but this was the worst I'd ever seen her cry. She kept demanding that we leave, and that she wanted to go back to her house, but for the most part we ignored her. Again, very stupid children, until we finally saw the first flash of lightning. Begrudgingly we all left, running for the patch of trees that was nearby when lightning struck the ground less than 5 feet away from where we were playing just a few minutes prior. That had to be one of the scariest moments of my early childhood, and left me with a deep-seated fear of lightning. Also, yes, my parents did ground me for the rest of the summer for not coming home when the rain started to fall. Met a guy off Tinder at night. We walked around the park near his house and he suggested we go back inside to play Mario Kart. He warned me that his place was a little messy, and I said okay, not a problem. I go inside and I'm absolutely shocked. He's a hoarder and lives with his parents. The entire apartment smelled like cat piss. Poor cat. I was panicking on the inside cause I have asthma and I'm a clean freak, but I didn't want to make him feel bad. It was absolutely horrible and disgusting and so hard to breathe. I was getting some super creepy vibes from him too, and I went to the bathroom and texted my friend to call me in 5 minutes for a level 10 emergency. She called and was crying hysterically on the phone, and I quickly got up and left. For context, I live in Melbourne. A few years ago a man stabbed his brother, got in a car, drove to the city where I was living, did some donuts in the middle of a busy intersection right outside my window at the time, and then drove said car down a popular street with many shoppers on it, and killed as many as he could. Donut marks were visible from my window for ages. A couple months ago I was waiting at a different busy intersection in the city and a car started to do donuts in the middle of it. My immediate response was to just bolt, and I ran into the nearest store. I didn't even think about it, my brain just immediately assumed his next step was to use the car as a weapon. Eventually he drove off, but my heart was beating very fast. Not that interesting, but yeah. This was years ago. My older cousin, 17 at the time, took my little brother 5 and sister 7 and me 9 out in a big city we live near, and we were standing at this bus stop that was at a small square grass park, probably about 200 feet across. It was January and the park was surrounded by short bushes that still had Christmas lights on them. My brother and I began to wander, and my brother wandered a bit further than me, following a string of lights. A few minutes later I get this weird feeling, and my head shoots up, and about 30 feet away is my brother speaking with this old, dirty man. I saw the man reach his hand towards my brother, and I heard him say, "If you like Christmas lights, I have some really nice ones over here you'd love." My brother grabbed his hand and they both started to walk away, but I caught up before they could turn the corner and snatched my brother back. The man immediately turned around and hurried away without a word, and I was too young and scared and confused to confront him. I never told anyone about it until years later for some reason, but I was so overwhelmed with the thought that I had just experienced one of those moments that could have completely altered my life in a matter of seconds. If I had looked up 5 seconds later, they would have turned the corner and disappeared into the city without a trace. Back in 2007, me and my buddy were in high school, and I had just gotten my driver's license. Get tickets to go see a show in Camden. We are from Philly burbs. This is also my first time over in Jersey without an adult. With my last 5 I buy a shirt from a guy outside the show Masters of Metal tour. Heaven and Heck, Judas Priest, Testament, and Mott Red. It was ducking sick for high school me. We go to drive over the bridge and they're like, "There's a toll. Pull off and go to the 7-Eleven around the corner. There's an at the moment." Okay, sure. Do that and pull up to the 7-Eleven and it straight up looks like there's about to be a gang fight. Me and my scrawny ass friend are in a 1990 Ford Bronco, by the way. Put it in reverse. As soon as we see what's going on, we found a cop, explained the situation. He called us idiots and told us a way to sneak over the bridge. Fun night. Some 5 years ago, my parents were living in Chihuahua, Mexico. I flew down to see them, since I work in the States. Turns out a friend from childhood was living there as well, so we decided to meet for a drink. It was my first time in that city. We are from another state, but my dad used to move a lot for work. I borrowed my dad's car, and we drove to a bar. As we were parking the car in front of the bar, 3 guys are leaving holding AK-47s. "Let's get the fuck out of here," I said. I was paralyzed, but managed to back up the car, but they walked in front of it before I could leave. One of them stayed in the middle of the street, while the other 2 got their truck. So there we were in the middle of the street staring directly at this dude with the gun looking right at us. He slowly walked to the truck still looking at us, jumped in and they left. We drove home pretty paranoid and just had a drink there. My elderly neighbor stopped by one day and asked to borrow my phone as his had broken. When I asked if he was okay, he stated that there were some people from the nursing home in his house that shouldn't have been there. We talked to the police, and he went home. The police called me back with more information. So I went to my neighbor's house and started asking questions. He invited me in to talk to one of the people in question, but there wasn't anyone there. Turns out, he was hardcore hallucinating. I noped out of there before calling the police back and asking for a wellness check. They took him away in an ambulance, and I never heard what happened after. Was one of the scariest moments of my life, though. One day I was out watering some baby trees on my in-laws' farm on a hot summer's day. Everything around us was field except for these small trees. I heard what I thought sounded like rustling leaves, but a lot of them, and it kept getting louder. I look over and see a literal wall of bees moving towards us, buzzing loudly. My hubby told me to run. We dropped everything and ran to the farmhouse. The group of bees ended up on one of the baby trees in a big clump. Apparently that's just how they travel when their numbers outgrow their hive. It was pretty dramatic stuff. Supposedly when bees are out like that they are at their least aggressive. I've seen them do it too. Freaked me out. I was a relatively new driver at the time. My little brother and I were driving through Kansas City on a road trip and took a wrong turn. Got into a pretty seedy part of town and stopped to ask directions. This was way back before Google Maps or GPS. From 2 police officers walking into a store. They looked at me and then each other and said, "Miss, you need to get back in your car now." Gave me good directions to get out, though. Was walking my 100-pound Dane mix in the mountains. We were next to a 3-foot hill with tall grass on it, and we heard a very low frequency growl. My dog, who was king shit of the whole mountain, and every dog on it, whimpered and started shaking. I stared into the grass, but didn't see anything. Then another growl and we walked quickly away. Once we got around the corner we ran home like sissies. 2 days later my neighbor killed a 200-pound mountain lion that was in his yard attacking his llama. Close call. This happened to my dad when I was maybe 3 years old, so I don't remember it, but I've been told the story. One of my dad's old mates had a daughter my age, maybe a year older, and we were at their house and my dad and his mate were having beers, and I was playing with the mate's daughter and my mum was holding my sister, maybe 18 months at the time. Out of nowhere my dad's mate grabs his daughter and says to my dad, "Oh, I may check this out," and hands his daughter a full glass of rum and coke which she promptly sculls. From what I was told, my dad scooped me up, grabbed my mum and sister and we got the heck out of there. I live on a big hill in the country. I was abruptly woken up and told to get dressed. I looked out my window and the top of my hill was on fire. I lost my shit, grabbed my cats and dogs, got my horses loaded into the trailer and got the heck out. That was terrifying, watching my hill on fire getting closer and closer to my house. My best friend and I wanted to go to the beach for our birthday, which happens to be mid-spring, so it's quite off season, especially in New England. My mom warned us not to go, but we were 18, 19, so of course we didn't listen. We were sitting on the seawall, and it was dusk. I shout. It was quiet and peaceful. Then I got this overwhelming sensation of get the duck out. I kept tugging on my friend's shoulder saying we needed to go, and we had our fun. She started making fun of me saying I need stop thinking of my mom and live a little. Well, I start looking around to calm my anxieties and tell myself there is no danger, except there was a hooded man in the distance, walking slowly but definitely had something in his hand. I think it was a knife, but I couldn't tell. I start to freak out, and my friend was not having my shit. I keep my eye on the guy, and he sees my trying to go, then he starts to pick up his pace towards us. I start crying and begging my friend to go, and grabbed her by the hood and she finally saw the guy. I jumped in the driver's seat of her car, and she was beyond freaked at this point. Instead of walking around the car, she dove into the front seat as well. So I drove a mile with her laying across my lap. In the rearview mirror I see him standing right where we were at a dead stop, and just watch the car peel off. It was so bone chilling that I was terrified for days after. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.